Welcome back to Zemer of the Week, Zhao. I'm John Hornstein, here with my co-host, David Rosenwein. And David, I'm here in Austin, Texas this week, and I know that you've spent a lot of time in the great state of Texas. And it would have been nice if you had offered me your cowboy boots for my trip, but unfortunately you didn't, and now I'm without cowboy boots.
John, I'm hesitant to say thanks for airing the dirty laundry because some would look at the cowboy boots as an embarrassment, others would look at it as like, wow, he's got cowboy boots. Maybe peculiar is another word people would call me. I'm sorry I didn't lend them out, but I got to give you a little bit of rebuke for not opening up with a howdy. I mean, you're in Texas. Instead of welcome back, it would have been more appropriate to say howdy, y'all.
That's very fair. I should have said howdy, y'all. I should be wearing a sombrero. I'm not doing that. I'm letting the listenership down on several levels.
Luckily, this is against, like, they can't see us, John. You should have just gone with it. Just
That's
next
true.
time we'll prepare.
Yeah, we say that every time, and somehow we always lose track of the preparation.
Sure.
Well, we are very excited because it is episode 3 of season 2, and again we are in our theme of a Shabbat dinner.
I'm glad you can keep track because I sure can't.
He says this as he's motioning the number 3 to me on the video. Yes, David is tracking us. We are in episode 3, Shabbat dinner theme. We have welcomed the Sabbath angels in Shalom Aleichem. We have sung to the women of valor in Eshet Chayil. And now we are ready to sanctify the wine with the Kiddush. And so we're very excited about this. You may remember from last week, unless you're a new listener, and if you are a new listener, please reach out to us. We would love to know about all of our new listeners. But if you're not a new listener, you know that the question that we're aiming to answer about Kiddush is why we go through this blessing of sanctifying the wine. Why is this wine different than any other wine? Normally we just say a blessing over the wine. That's very simple. Here, for this special Sabbath wine, it's a very elaborate blessing. Why the additional elaborate blessing for Friday night dinner? And so we're going to aim to answer that question. But first, David, we have a very special guest on, and I want to allow you to introduce him before we get carried away on different wine and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, well, definitely a little late because we start off the episode getting carried away. But, we do have an older listener, not a new listener, as John was alluding to, Joseph Eskin. Joseph, welcome to the podcast. Welcome back to Zemer of the Week.
Welcome back to America.
Just finishing a 3-week trip from Israel. Just to, give the listenership, and Joseph, I know I didn't let you get a word in yet, hashtag welcome to Zhao. Joseph, we know Joseph back from the University of Michigan, the old stomping ground, where we met, rocked out at Hillel. Joseph was an integral part of the Jewish community at the University of Michigan and has taken his talents to Chicago. High school teacher, student activities coordinator, most recently written up in the, what was it, Joseph, Chicago Tribune?
Yeah, there was something in Chicago Tribune, yes.
Yeah, Chicago Tribune highlighting Joseph's championship-level Model UN coaching talents. So not only is Joseph knowledgeable in Judaic studies, is he knowledgeable in foreign policy, Model UN, coaching kids. He's multi-talented. He's also served for many, many years as Rosh Tikva in Camp Ramah, Wisconsin. Did I get that title right?
Yeah, wow, this is really something.
Yeah, it's almost like I prepped. Joseph, anyway, welcome to Zhao.
Yes, seriously, forget about sanctifying Kiddush. You're really sanctifying me here on this podcast.
Well, we do what we can for every listener we get.
Yeah, seriously. No, it's such a nice welcome. It's awesome to be here. This is my second time on the podcast, and it's just amazing to see how Zhao has grown and thrived. I love the theme. I love the theme for the season.
Thanks. Wow. So we didn't tell him to do that. We appreciate the feedback, but we don't want to think that this is staged or anything. So, but thank you. I know that was genuine. We both appreciate it. Without really further ado, I mean, people know who you are. John, nice job reintroducing Kiddush. I think, Joseph, if you don't mind, maybe sharing your Kiddush knowledge with us and with the listenership.
Sharing some Kiddush knowledge. So I don't know if I have great detailed Kiddush knowledge, but I think my understanding of Kiddush is that, like you said, we're blessing the wine, right? This is what you want me to talk about Kiddush a little bit, right?
Sure. Talk about Kiddush, and then we can go right into teaching it. Sure.
Yeah.
And one thing that I would like for you to include, Joseph, and you can get to this later, is who taught you how to do your version of Kiddush?
Ooh. Okay. So my dad taught me how to do Kiddush, and it's I would say it's a simple Kiddush, simple, straightforward, straight to the point.
Mm-hmm.
Which works for me and works for my family. What about you? Who taught you how to do Kiddush?
My grandfather taught me how to do it, Joseph. I think it's interesting, the familial connection, and obviously it's something that is done at the Shabbat dinner table, so it's obviously in the presence of family. It's interesting. Not to again go on with the theme of not giving Joseph a chance to get a word in edgewise, but I don't know if my grandfather ever sat me down and taught me Kiddush, more so that I just heard him do it, week after week after week, that I sort of picked it up that way. So I don't know if that was the same with you and your father, or if it was a very deliberate thing, but that was kind of the way that it happened for us.
Yeah, I would say mine is very similar. No, I don't think there was ever a let's sit down and learn this. It's when you hear something week after week after week, eventually you pick it up and eventually want to be able to say it yourself. So yeah, I think it's a nice seamless passing from generation to generation.
Totally. Yeah, it's nice to know.
Maybe now is a good time, Joseph, to share that Kiddush that you heard week after week with us.
Okay. All right. So here, I'll do it just the way I learned it. Vayhi erev, vayhi boker yom hashishi, vaychulu hashemayim va'aretz v'chol tzva'am, vaychal hi b'yom hashvi melachto asher asa, vayishbot b'yom hashvi mikol melachto asher asa, vayvarach Elohim et yom hashvi vaykadesh oto ki bo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim lasot. Savri Marnan. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu mitzotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava u'b'ratzon hichilanu zikaron l'maaseh b'reshit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziyar v'yitzrayim kivanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta Mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha b'yahava u'b'ratzon hichaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Amen. Beautiful. Actually, if I could jump in here, John. So Joseph, John doesn't like when I go rogue on the podcast, but to give you a little background, this is Joseph. I'm not sure you know this, and definitely the listenership, some inside scoops here. John was the president of Hillel back when he was a rising senior, late junior in college, and he oversaw a large Jewish community at Hillel. And I had the privilege of serving on his team, and we would have Shabbat dinners, as you remember, Joseph, with 200, 300, 400, 500 people, and one of John's responsibilities every week was finding someone to do Kiddush. And sometimes we would huddle up, we would have a game plan, but there were times where John would just give me a look, and I knew the look, get Joe. We had to get Joseph. I think you showed it right there. Like that was perfect. And I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of flack on this, but sorry, John. This is important information, relevant information that the listenership needs to know about.
That is relevant. I agree, and I definitely remember the look. Now, Joe, one question that I have for you is, obviously this is Zemer of the Week. This is a podcast about singing songs together, and Kiddush is something, I mean, at least it seems like you recite it yourself. But is there any part of Kiddush that, you sing with other people? Can Kiddush be a song and sort of be like have that Zemer feel to it in a way?
Yes, for sure. To be honest, I probably should. It would have been nice to include you guys in the singing. In the second,
no one wants to hear us sing, Joseph.
He's right.
In the second half, when we get to the part that starts like Ki Huyom Techila Lamikra E Kodesh, that's where in my family we used to all sing together. That sort of sing-songy part. Where it's a nice. At the beginning, it's sort of like a monotonous kind of thing. Like that's my big solo, and then at the end, when it's a nice song, nice tune, it's nice, I think, for everyone to sing together. So for sure, that's a Zemer type part.
Got it. Yeah, no, I think that's like really nice. We did actually the same thing in my family. Like, my grandfather would pause like Zecher Litziat Mitzrayim. And then everybody would jump in, Kivanu. So yeah, I love that part. So I'm all with you on that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. John, I think you posed a question in the beginning of the podcast, specifically related to Kiddush and sanctifying the wine. You posed it, so you got to answer it now.
That is true, and that's always dangerous because, as we all know, David and really Joseph too are the scholars of this podcast. In fact, not to air the dirty laundry, but I do know, in fact, that David and Joseph were on the phone learning some Torah directly before this podcast, while I was actually out having a beer with some of my
South by Southwest.
Exactly. But I do have an idea, and Joseph, please jump in if you have an idea. David, please do not. Just kidding.
No more going rogue for me.
Yeah. No. From my understanding, the reason that we say a lengthier blessing on Kiddush wine versus just a glass of wine that we have during the week is because in ancient times, right now we're sort of used to drinking water and soda and all kinds of beverages during the week. If we have a glass of wine, it's more of a special occasion now. Anyways, in ancient times, people would actually drink wine as sort of a common occurrence, with most meals. And so the sages wanted a way to separate this Sabbath wine, which is being used at the Sabbath meal and which is sort of on a higher level than from the wine that we would just drink on a daily basis. And so that is the idea behind sanctifying the wine with the Kiddush, to sort of separate this Sabbath wine from just wine that would be drank for normal purposes. So that is sort of what I have to share. Any other perspectives from around the table?
I was told to shut up. John, I like that a lot. That was nice, really nice.
Yeah, beautiful.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, not to. I think that was great, and not to pivot too quickly because I'm sure people would just love to have like a 24/7 of us streaming. But I do want to, as staying in theme, introduce next week's episode. Next week we are going to be doing episode 4, and really starting the Shabbat meal, starting Friday night dinner. So obviously we're not going to be eating on the podcast, but we're going to be starting with our opening Zemer. And the opening Zemer is a very different twist than anything that we've ever heard on Zemer of the Week. And mind you, we've heard a cappella, we've heard rapping, we've heard
Yiddish.
Ethiopian folk tales. We've heard the gamut of things. This is going to be a Sephardic Zemer called Ashorer Shirah. We're going to have a special guest because the listenership knows that, well, maybe they don't know, but John and I are not Sephardic, so we don't have a ton of knowledge on this. So the question that we're posing to you all next week, and what we hope to answer with our guest, is why we have these distinctions between Sephardic and Ashkenazic Zmirot. So, the tunes, having different tunes does make sense because, the Jewish people were in different parts of the world, and, different cultures will have different impacts and influences on, different parts of the world. So that makes sense. But why, the language and the actual Zmirot, why are they different? So Ashorer Shirah, when I pitched this idea to John was like, Ashorer who? So we had just never heard of it. So anyway, that's going to be the question. I could have said it more concisely. Sorry, John.
No, that makes sense, and I am very excited to discuss sort of the intricacies of the differences between Sephardic and Ashkenazi music with our guest next week. I will say that I'm a little bit disappointed that, David, you didn't have your mother, Deborah Rosenwein, who's a fantastic cook, come on and make a chicken soup or something for the entire listenership. Normally when I attend a Shabbat dinner, we don't go straight to the Zmiro. We have a little nash first, a little food, and you're really depriving us here. So I am a little disappointed in that regard.
Well, we've both successfully disappointed each other this episode.
Fair. Well, next time I will bring my cowboy boots and my hay yalls, and
I will talk to my mother about making some of her famous chicken soup.
I'm very excited for that. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us. Round 2. It was great to hear about your rendition of Kiddush and about your history of Kiddush and how you learned it.
It was a pleasure. It was a real pleasure to be on.
Thank you, Joseph.
I mean, yeah, mostly just to hear my own voice and sing, but to hear your jokes was good also.
Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah, honestly, if I could just replace myself with Joe, I would. But
no, I don't think anyone wants that.
I'm signed through 2017, and David's got a good lawyer, so I don't know how I'm gonna get out of that.
Yep. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We hope you have a great week. A Shabbat Shalom. Enjoy Kiddush and get psyched for Sparty's Miro coming next week.
Have a great week, everyone.
Bye-bye.